to see the littering of the landscape, of the forgetfulness of an American government that refused to take responsibility. But thank God y'all didn't make no excuses. Ms. Tyson has already said no excuses acceptable, and y'all knew that before Obama got in office. Y'all understood that there were no excuses. Allen Iverson on the basketball court doesn't make any excuses. What had happened was, I can't make this layup because my mama's poor. Because your mama poor, work harder on your layup. So y'all understood that you had to get your lesson, as my daddy said. You had to study hard, as your valedictorian said. Even in the dark, I know y'all weren't just frolicking, you were studying too. You went to Bourbon Street because it had the light to read your books. I understand. And so you took responsibility. You understood, like God saying to Moses, what's that in your hand? Don't tell me about what somebody else ain't doing, what the folks should have done, what they could have done. They need to be held accountable. You need to hold them accountable. But in the meantime, you've got to get your stuff together. Whether you're black or Latino or Asian, whether you are First Nation, indigenous people, whether you are from Salvador, whether you're from the Harlem that Ms. Tyson spoke about, whether you're from Brooklyn, whether you're from the Bronx, whether you're from the south side of Chicago, whether you're from the 9th Ward, wherever you hail from, wherever you come from, realize that you have a responsibility to do everything in your power to rise higher with the gifts that God gave you and the talent that God gave you as a birthright. Don't forget you're being responsible because other people have been responsible. There are people who have faced enormous odds. Yes, you are the graduating class of Katrina. Others who are graduating this year, and I've spoken to several other graduating classes, can't even imagine, can't even conjure in their deepest and darkest fears and nightmares what you had to go through. People demonizing folk who are here, and yet you realize you didn't suffer the worst. There are people here 4 years later who will never graduate, never go to school, never get a degree, never stand here on a stage and be recognized for the world. The only time they ride in a limousine, Ice Cube said, is when they're going to a funeral. You stand tall for them. You be responsible to speak for them. They can't talk. The world listens to them and hears their accent and dismisses them. Feels that they are unintelligent. Their vernacular is not the warehouse for high intelligence, but you let them know that even folk with vernacular can speak brilliantly and insightfully and say things, prayers to keep you going. Some of y'all speaking real nice, but some of y'all mamas and daddies didn't know how to talk, but they know how to talk to God. They said I'm like an empty pitcher before a full fountain. I thank God that my sheets wasn't my winding sheets and my board wasn't my cooling board. That you let the golden moments roll on a little longer. That ain't good grammar, but it's strong theology. And so you be responsible. Ms. Tyson has already said ain't no excuses. We got a new guy in the office. They called him a communist. They called him a traitor. They called him un-American. They called him unpatriotic. They called him somebody who would destroy America, but since January 20th, they done called him President of the United States of America. Rise like that brother rose. He didn't make no excuses. Black folk wasn't behind him for the most part from the giddy up. Black folks saying, we don't know who you is. We gonna dance with the one that brung us. We gonna hang with the Clintons. And so that was a good thing to do because you ought to hang with folk who prove that they've been hanging with you. So Obama didn't make no excuses, then he won Iowa. Black folks said ain't before Negroes in Iowa. How he won Iowa? We might have to take another look at Barack Obama. He didn't bellyache because when the white folk proved they were behind him, then the Negroes got behind him. He didn't make any